Welcome to SPK Speak Sports. On our station, we talk about baseball and sports news, from the most recent stories to the throwbacks. Listen now to Scott, Paul, and Kelly on SPK Speak Sports as they hit the ball out of the park.
You hit the ball out of the park. Speak Sports.
Hello, welcome to the wonderful world of Amway. We'll get to that in just a bit. I'm Scott.
I'm Paul.
I'm Kelly.
We'd like to let you know, too, that we are SPK Speak Sports, and to let you know, we should have mentioned this last week, all tattoo-free, it's a tattoo-free zone, and facial hair-free zone. Okay, this happened last week. Actually, that isn't totally true because Paul shaved, but he put all his hairs onto Kelly's chest. So, sorry about that. TMI. Anyway, so this is the Sunday after the Saturday, and everybody's talking about one thing. So it's on everybody's mind. So Kelly, you want to take it away with Boise State?
Yeah, Boise State.
Football?
Wait a minute. I just because baseball season was over after about 15 games for our team doesn't mean his season is over. And they're still playing. They're called the Dodgers.
Well, go ahead,
It's a setup.
Dodger.
Well, when we last saw you all, we recorded last week's podcast the day of the Game 7 of the NLCS. So National League didn't even have a World Series participant decided yet. And I think most of baseball land didn't really appreciate yet how valuable Corey Seager is to the Dodgers. He was the NLCS MVP, and his performance there has continued on into the World Series. World Series has been a up and down kind of thing for the Dodgers. When you look at the summaries, you would think that they'd be at least 3-1, maybe even swept. They're hitting 282 to the Rays 229. Their ERA is 2 runs lower than the Rays. Neither one really stellar. 4.54 for the Dodgers, 6.43 for the Rays. Dodgers on base percentage is 366 to the Rays 287. Dodgers OPS 160 points higher than the Rays, and the Dodgers have scored 10 more runs than the Rays.
Wow.
But this is baseball, and baseball has a way of humbling and of giving comeuppance. Game 1 was a fantastic one for Clayton Kershaw. I think he put some of the boogeyman aside. He's had a partly undeserved reputation for not performing well in the postseason. But he threw 6 innings of 2-hit ball. He allowed 1 run, struck out 8. Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger each hit home runs. That was a great game for the Dodgers. And the most memorable thing to me about Game 1 was that Mookie Betts walked, stole second, stole third. That's only happened one other time in World Series play, and it was in 1921. Any guess on who it was?
I'll say Ty Cobb.
Well, you told me, so
It was George Herman Babe Ruth.
The Bambino.
That was my second guess.
He was a much better athlete than people give him credit for, because we only see those old reels where it's kind of sped up and his legs look like they're pegs, and that wasn't the truth at all about the Babe. He was a marvelous athlete.
Well, and as a pitcher, tremendous statistics as a pitcher before he became the full-time hitter.
Absolutely.
And he also, talking about stealing, he made the last out, and I don't remember what year it was, of the World Series, stealing second base.
Or not stealing second base.
Not stealing. And that was the final out of the 7th game.
Wow.
What a bad way to end a game.
One thing about the game last night is a couple of things. And we're talking about, the Marlins last minute with a couple of errors. And, Brett Phillips, he may never do anything again. Kind of like a Rosarina, who's had a great playoff thing. But it's a tough game.
Yeah.
He may never do anything again, but he'll always have the fact that he did the hit. And conversely, you'll also have Chris Taylor in right field and Will Smith as the catcher for this. So it's a combination of the three. But Brett Phillips has a lifetime batting average of .202. in 153 games, and he hadn't played since Game 3 of the division series. So yesterday was October 24th. He hadn't played in 21 days.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that. And the thing with the replay is, because I don't think any of us realized until they had that replay, is Rosarina tumbles. He does almost a somersault, but Will Smith doesn't know that. He might have known it, like you pointed out earlier, if Kenley Jansen is behind him where he should be, to tell him he got plenty of time, because then we go into extra innings.
There were 4 miscues as I count them on, and maybe I'm being a little harsh. There were at least 3. And I think that Max Muncy would probably cop to a 4th miscue on that final play of the game. The first one was obvious. Chris Taylor trying to cheat, taking a look where Rosarina was, takes his eye off the ball, skips off his glove.
And there was no reason to cheat.
No reason.
Because Rosarina's only going to
third. That's true.
It's not going anywhere from.
And then the throw to Muncy. Fine, that was okay. Muncy cuts it off and goes to the plate. And if Max had thrown the ball to the glove side for Will Smith sees a Rosarina on the ground and walks over and tags him. But he throws it to his backhand side, and Smith thinks a Rosarina is coming to the plate hard and tries to do the sweep tag. So it wasn't an error on Muncy. He just, I think if he, had to do over again, he would have really concentrated on his throw. It was not a long throw. He was acting as the cutoff man. He's on the infield turf.
I think Rosarina, even after he rights himself, takes a step back to third base because he goes, I'm going to be out by 10 feet. And then,
that was called the phantom tag.
Well, Smith did the sweep without the ball, okay. Yeah. But the thing that was really boneheaded about it is Kenley Jansen is standing there between home plate and third base instead of backing up the throw to the plate.
He was a spectator.
If he had been there where he's supposed to be, where we used to get
basic stuff.
We used to get fined for not being there.
Right.
He's able to tell Smith the runner's down, and B, he can pick up the ball that gets away.
Right.
So it was a little league play in the World Series, and you hate to see it. And the last time I can recall a game ending with such a an empty feeling as a fan, and it wasn't even my team, was when Bill Buckner had the ball go between his legs.
It was kind of a similar, not a similar play, but that, okay, the ball's hit and okay, that's it, and you expect, but it reminds me of 1986 with the Angels, only they were one pitch away from going to the World Series, and that all changed, and so after watching, the whole game, the Dodger fans, and I thought the Dodgers would win in 5. So I thought, this is pretty much in the bag. And to me, it was a World Series game that morphed into a T-ball play at the end, like T-ball. Mm-hmm. And when I used to coach T-ball, I used to tell the kids, keep running until somebody tags you. And that's what it looked like.
And what gets forgotten about Game 4 of the World Series in 2020 is that Justin Turner homered in the first inning, just as he had done in Game 3, which set a World Series record. Nobody had ever homered 2 consecutive first innings in the World Series. He also set Dodger history by hitting his 12th postseason home run,
that's incredible,
which topped Duke Snider. And
but remember, Duke Snider hit 11 home runs in the
World Series. True.
So it's a little misleading. You have a postseason record and a World Series record. Yeah. So that's a little different.
I'll give you that. And he had a lot more years, though, with the Dodgers than Turner has had thus far. And Turner and Corey Seager each went 4 for 5 last night.
Yeah.
And Seager's hitting 500 in this series. Turner's hitting 444. And had the Dodgers not stranded, 10 runners last night,
right? Well,
we wouldn't be talking about this right now.
I think the analytics of it all would say the Dodgers the season should be over. Dodgers with the statistics and everything that he talked about, if you just looked at it, the series should be over.
Well, the analytics are what told Roberts and company to put in Pedro Baez to throw to Who hit the home run? Left side?
Lowe?
Yeah, Brendan Lau.
Yeah.
And because he throws well against left-handers.
Right.
I'm, as a Dodger fan, I'm saying put him Adam Clark. He's a lefty specialist. But no, didn't. Baez comes in, gives up 2 home runs, four runs in an inning.
That was a heck of a game, though. Back and forth.
It was.
I think they scored in every inning except maybe the second, something like that. I texted Paul because I didn't start watching the game till the 7th inning. And that's when the Dodgers took another lead. And I just texted him. I said, "Hey, I just turned on the game. I guess I'm your good luck charm. You're welcome." After that, I didn't text him anymore, and I didn't get any text from him. I knew that wouldn't happen after the game.
It's funny when you have a game like that and you're rooting for your team, and it was a great game. But it doesn't feel like that when your team loses. It feels like it's just so devastating.
Especially if you watch the whole 4 hours and 10 minutes, which if you'd listened to last week's show, could have easily been 3:40.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, Rosarina hit his 9th home run, so that's of this postseason. So that's a record too. So
Seager's right behind him with 8.
Who?
Corey Seager.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that's just, and you just don't know these guys from Tampa. You really need to get a program to,
Also, I thought about Joe Buck, and this is well after the fact, and I just thought about it this morning. So to come up with that, right, but to commemorate his dad's call of the Gibson home run, he could have easily said, I don't believe what I just saw. I don't believe what I just saw.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was like, what the heck happened, It just was a comedy error.
Also, I want to mention, too, about Bellinger after hitting that home run and doing the Mark McGuire hook. These guys got to be careful. I mean, I'll go back to, and you did too, Kendrys Morales with the Angels years ago, and he jumps on home plate with a game-winning home run, and he's out for the rest of that season. And the next season,
broken
he
ankle.
had a few good years after that, but they traded him away. And so these guys have got to be careful. Also with the dog pile, don't be dogpiling until you win the last game of the World Series, because you got 4 months to recuperate and recover
from getting squashed.
But you got to be careful with that stuff. And then he does the toe tap the next time he hits a home run, which he said he was going to do. So these guys got to be careful. Also, I got to backtrack a second because people went, this guy isn't Pedro Guerrero, Scott. I said Pedro Guerrero. It's Vladimir Guerrero. So sorry, Vlad.
You got your Vladdies and your Pedros mixed up.
I knew it wasn't right, and I think you guys didn't know it was right. But being the expert on all things baseball, you didn't want to correct me. So I'm correcting myself.
I just don't listen to you, Scott.
Also, I want to mention about, I don't know if you saw this, I saw this the other day about Scott Boras, what he wants to, you guys seen what he's proposing to get baseball at the end of the season be more like the Super Bowl, is to do it at a neutral site, no games off, have a home run derby in there, have the award ceremony in there, entertainment. He wants to make it a Super Bowl times a possible 7 days at a neutral site. That isn't very good for the fans of those two teams. No. Just like at the Super Bowl, those two teams play in New Orleans, and you got a team from LA or wherever, and you're probably not getting in anyway because most of those seats are corporate. Yeah. And if you can, you're paying. You
got to take a loan.
Buku bucks.
You got to get a loan.
So, but that's his idea about how to get baseball
I don't like it. Better. I don't like it.
Joe Morgan passed away. Another Hall of Famer about a week or so ago. 5'7". He was a heck of a second baseman. Very adamant. He was, I think, on the board of the Hall of Fame about not letting anybody in who was on steroids. Yeah, I mean, he was adamant about that.
Yeah. Did he ever take a position on his old teammate?
Pete Rose?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't.
I think he did, didn't he?
Both bench. And I think that it was about them lying to them. And where they really said, really what
the lie's always worse than the the cover. It's worse than the deed.
It's what Rose is not in there because of his attitude, but his attitude made him the great player that he was. Yeah. So it's kind of double-edged sword.
Yeah, and you mentioned about Buckner. On this date, the day after the game last night, he booted the ball in the '86 series. So don't want to Other than, I've seen, I would encourage anybody who wants to go onto YouTube. There's several different things that ESPN did over the years Buckner and his wife and the family, and how steadfast they were and everything. And it's just a great moment when he comes back after they won the second World Series. And what was it, 08, I guess? He comes out of the Green Monster, and people are just standing and applauding. And there's two kids with a big bed sheet that says, "We forgive Bill Buckner." And his wife, Jody, says, we didn't need forgiveness. We didn't do anything wrong. We needed to get to the point where we were able to forgive those people, especially the media.
Yeah. No kidding. He was way too good a player to be remembered for that play.
Yeah, and he's playing the last 12, 15 years of his career on a leg and a half.
Right.
Otherwise, he probably gets 3,000 hits.
Definitely.
So, but he had a good sense of himself. And I think they finally had to move to Idaho.
Good choice.
He persevered through that.
Right.
But the one thing on one of these pieces is they're interviewing him prior to the World Series starting. And he says, this is what you always dream of as a player, to get in the World Series, get the game-winning hit. Conversely, you also hope that you don't make the error that loses a game.
Yeah.
Chris Taylor.
That's unbelievable.
But that's what fans do, is you can have a great career, and it's the one thing maybe that you didn't do, or you didn't play well in a game or something, and that's the thing, and that's what they've done to.
But there were so many things that happened prior to him booting that too, which isn't.
Yeah,
isn't his
well,
fault.
there's always always doesn't really come down to one play.
Nobody be talking about it. Certainly not today, after all these years. If they'd won Game 7.
Yeah, right.
Which they were leading.
Yeah.
Early on.
But they're doing that to Kershaw. Now he did pitch a great game last.
Speaking of Clayton Kershaw, he's throwing tonight.
Yeah, and if he pitches well tonight, then that's going to really help the Dodgers, because I'm sure that the momentum, it's just, I know from the Angel deal in '86, they just didn't recover from that game.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the pitch that Donnie Moore threw, because the Angels had chances after it. So,
exactly.
like you say, there's stuff that happens. It isn't just on that one play.
People that never played the game, or even if you just played Little League or high school, but people never play. They forget how hard. This is a hard game to play.
It is.
So even Buckner wasn't a hard hit ball, but it's a tough game to play.
Yeah.
So whatever Kershaw does tonight, he'll be trying his best.
Right.
And the thing for you is, you got to look at last night as half full. Can you? At least it wasn't the fourth game where Tampa Bay's leading 3-0, and that ended the World Series. You're at 2-2. So look at it as look at it this way, Paul. Look at it as half full. It's half full.
Or you could look at it one other way. Think how happy the Tampa Bay fans are.
Oh, make me feel good.
I mean, the Dodger fans.
I think that's half empty for him.
Scott, you said something I really love, and it segues perfectly into a quote that I saw this week that I wanted to bring to SPKSpeakSports. He said, baseball is a hard game. It's a tough game. Yeah. Well, there's a quote from Ty Cobb. Baseball is a red-blooded sport for red-blooded men. It's no pink tea. And mollycoddles had better stay out. It's a struggle for supremacy, a survival of the fittest.
Mollycoddles. One of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the secret
Coach
password.
Salinas used to use that word. And so did Art Masmanian.
The password is mollycoddle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm really amazed about, too, because being the first bat boy for the Angels, 61, 2, and part of 63, is that out of nowhere, all of a sudden, I'm hearing about Bo Belinsky, who was one of our star pitchers. He comes out of nowhere, wins his first 5 games in 62, no hitter in the 5th game. All of a sudden,
Scott?
Walter Winchell is yeah.
I think you're confusing things. They're talking about Tony Bobolinsky. It's a different guy, not the baseball player.
But he knew Bo Belinsky. He was a friend of Bo Belinsky.
This guy is no Bo Belinsky.
Any predictions for tonight?
I think Dodgers is going to win.
I think so too. I think Kershaw is more than up to the task, and
I mean those stats you read off is just so lopsided. I mean, for it to be 2-2.
For me, not having a lot of skin in the game, I would like the Dodgers to win. But when you don't have your team, your specific team, I wanted to always go 7 games. So you know that, especially when I was in school.
Yeah.
And
Bite your
after
tongue.
5 games, I go, do I want to skip school tomorrow for the 6th game?
Yeah.
Or do I think so-and-so's going to win? Good. I went to school. They lost, so we've got a 7th game. Now I feel a little sick.
In the olden days, just for people, they played all the games during the day.
That's right. And they could do it on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, and so you're not in the East Coast where it's past midnight watching the World Series.
We do want to mention, I guess, a little football.
One last thing.
Oh,
One
sure.
last thing. Daryl Cousins, the umpire, died.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he was around for a long time.
Yes, he was.
At the risk of going against form, because I believe that picking a particular baseball game is a fool's errand. I said so last week. But I'm going to forecast an LA win for tonight, largely for those stats that I read before. Also because the Dodgers wins, the 2 wins were pretty convincing with the Kershaw win and the Buehler win. We didn't even talk about Buehler. That was a great performance.
Yeah, Buehler.
But the Dodgers really touched up Tyler Glasnow in the first game. And I just think that they are, after last night, raring to go. And, could be wrong, obviously. But the key to their success, keep the starter, Kershaw, in for at least 6 innings and keep Pedro Baez out of the game.
You're not a fan of his?
Not a fan. I'd rather have Joan Baez.
Yeah. Well, that's his aunt.
So college football is kind of, I understand, playing. And
Yeah.
Boise State started yesterday and whooped Utah State 42-13.
They pretty much spread the wealth around, too, because they had a lot of players in there.
Yeah.
Harsin did a good job of that.
You know what's interesting to me is that in the last 20 years, since 2020, that they were talking about not having fans in the stands with that hurt Boise State. Well, it didn't yesterday, but they've won 121 and lost 9 games at home in the last 20 years.
I noticed that there's
phenomenal.
one thing that's the same though. The grass is still blue.
Boise State has the winningest record
Yeah.
in college football in this century. So all you haters out there,
So let me. Okay, you're a Pac-10 guy.
Pac-12.
Pac-12.
I used to be a Pac-10 guy.
Okay, and I remember
was a Pac-8
I
fan.
was a Pac-8
So
fan
was I.
too.
I'm a little
Okay,
older than him.
so is Boise State? They're in the Mountain West,
Right.
and they're like the big fish in the pond. Would you like to see them get into the Pac-10?
I would. I think the only reason they're not there is that they're not a research institution.
Oh, okay.
That when Utah and Colorado came in,
Yeah.
that was the reason. I think, frankly, Boise State's a better football team than Colorado. And I think that, Utah, people wondered, is Utah going to fit in the Pac-12? Yeah, they have fit in pretty darn nicely in the Pac-12.
So I would like to see San Diego State and Boise State go and make it the Pac-14. Would that work? How do you get it? How does a team say to the conference, we want to leave the conference? Are they locked in? I mean, how does that work?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think the conference has to decide to.
Yeah.
The conference has to decide to expand, and then when they do, then there are all kinds of hoops that have to be jumped through, like as Colorado and Utah had to do.
Right.
And I know Boise State did. They have done a lot toward becoming a research institute by adding labs in various departments. I have a friend whose wife is an oncologist, and she was actually negotiating with Boise State to bring some really high-end research
So it's
to the
pretty much
university.
what they have in common institutionally is what determines if the football team, being part of the school, goes to a certain
these
conference.
days it seems less than geographically. I mean, you have teams from all over.
Nebraska in the big, what is it? Big Ten. They have 14 teams.
They just don't know how to count
they
in the
call it Big
Midwest.
14?
It
Because
doesn't
the
have the
logo
same
would have
ring
to
to it.
change, and they got a good-looking logo.
They could say
Trademarked.
the Big Dozen plus 2.
Plus,
You know,
take the
these
whole
are
helmet to
these
do
are
that.
institutions that teach mathematics, and they call something the Big Ten when there's 14 teams in there.
How did your Irish do yesterday?
They won 45-3. Number
Had to tee it
3
up for
team, and today they're the number 4 team.
And that's
So Ohio State played their first game, moved ahead of Notre Dame, who's played 5 games. So what?
out of 17 games that were played with the top 20, 25 teams, plus Boise State, who's not in the top 25.
They are now.
10 of the 17 games were blowouts. The great game, and the only game I really watched was at the very end. It was about 2 minutes to go. Was the Penn State, at,
Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah.
And that replay.
Yeah.
There's a point to have replay.
Well, yeah, but
was
this
really
is
close.
the ironic thing.
Great
I
ending.
watched it, and it's like, okay, so they have the instant replay, and I think a lot of people feel he didn't make it. I think he did, but because I don't have any skin in the game.
Yeah.
But
I thought he went into.
yeah, okay, so they call it, he's in, and they go by not what they see they can't really determine it, so they go by what was called on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes back to the refs no matter what.
Yeah, if you don't have really enough evidence, I mean,
Right.
it was so the human eye's not going to be able to.
Yeah, and
do
that's
that,
that's.
to notice that.
But boy, that guy running for the touchdown when all he had to do was just kneel there. Did you see it?
I didn't.
Yeah. So the guy from Penn State, they give him the handoff. Indiana lets him score, and he realizes it just when he steps over the line. So now they have to count it, and then they have to kick off. Had he just knelt?
That was a tremendous athletic play. though.
Yeah, it was. That was sensational.
Speaking of Bobulinski again, the real Bobulinski. So here's a guy coming out of nowhere, wants a raise in spring training. He's never played in the big leagues before. As I mentioned, his 5th game, he wins. He's 5-0, pitches a no-hitter, and he's the toast of the town. Walter Winchell takes on to him. He's dating everybody from Mamie Van Doren to Ann Margaret to Connie Stevens, and then had problems with his life, but got it back together near the end. But I just wanted to mention real quickly about the 62 season, just to kind of share. So I would have liked to have been the bat boy in 62 in Wrigley Field one more year, because that was my park. But Dodger Stadium was brand new. I mean, it looks then just like it does today. It was, I'm sorry, Chavez Ravine.
Yeah.
We did not call it Dodger Stadium. But that year, this is the 2nd year of their existence. On July 4th, they're in first place. And it was kind of like back then, who was ever in first on the 4th had a pretty good chance of being in the World Series, because, again, there's no playoffs.
Yeah.
And so this was a big thrill for me. On Labor Day, right around Labor Day, we go into Yankee Stadium, 4.5 games out behind the Yankees. So you need to win 3 out of the 4 to get just 2 games out.
Famous LA Times headline on 4th of July. Heaven can wait. Angels in first.
You're right.
On
You're
four,
Expansion
right?
team.
So we go to Yankee Stadium, bet down by 4.5. Win 2 of the first 3, so now we're 3.5 back. Need to win that last game to be 2.5 back and still be in the race with about 3.5 weeks left. Leading 5-2 in the 7th inning. They score 4 runs and win by a run. Angels lost like 11 of the last 15. So we ended up in 3rd, about 10 back. Still wasn't bad. I got $75 extra because they divvied up. Back then, you got a World Series share, a share for winning 2nd place, and also 3rd place. And so if they hadn't lost those last 11 out of 15, probably would have ended up in 2nd. But that was quite a thrill to be in Yankee Stadium with, still in the hunt.
Yeah,
with a team that was just
expansion.
Not even couple years old.
Yeah.
You guys have a last couple of things you want to?
Yeah, I want to say props to Coastal Carolina. They cracked the top 25. First time I've ever seen that happen.
And Boise State is 25th now.
Next week it's our Halloween show. So you people that might be listening on the audio version, this isn't going to play out well for you. So you're going to have to go to YouTube or the podcast to see the podcast, because we will be in costume, and this ain't it here. Okay, and sorry we didn't have time for the Amway demonstration, but hopefully next week. So the 3 of us say adios.
Hasta la vista.
Adios.
You hit the ball out of the park. Speak Sports.